start as an entrepreneur, you have to. The idea that you could go for 1.5 years without questioning some of your basic assumptions about your business model, that's just fundamentally flawed. At that time, given the people, given the background, given the stage of the market, how quickly it was growing, given the IPO, all these factors worked to convince us to just keep going, never stop to ask these questions. All right, I'm going to pause here and see if you have questions or any clarifications.
Peter, that was excellent because it's a lot more than what we got out of the case study that we read here. Any questions? Yes, go ahead.
So I wanted to ask, like, what happens when you lose so much money? If you lose so much investors' money, what happens after that?
Do they put gundas after you?
Yeah, I think look, I grew up in India and Delhi, so I think that the answer varies depending on which part of the world you're in. I think if you had lost this much money in India, there would be a variety of politicians and maybe even Aam Party now after all. Today, sitting in the U.S., see, the thing was, you have to see that investors invest in sectors, okay? At the time, Amazon, you think we had raised 800 million. In 2000, Amazon, which was about 5 years old, had done a bond offering and raised over $2 billion.
Right.
And there was a variety of other startups in the e-commerce retail sector that had. So the large institutional investors, $800 million is not coming from too many retail investors. There's just not enough money in people's pockets to finance that kind of a company. So most of our 800 million came from very large institutional investors, Fidelity, T. Rowe Price, large private equity funds. Those people very rarely will invest in a single company. They will invest in a sector. So they will have a worldview that e-commerce as a macro trend is growing. They'll put some money into Amazon, they'll put some money into Webvan, they'll put some money into yet a third company that's in the e-commerce space. So the portfolio effect of the mega trend takes care of that. The retail investor who says, oh wow, I'm a Webvan customer, it's an amazing product, and so we had 1 million customers in just San Francisco area who loved the product. And many of them bought the stock on a retail basis. But they might have put in $5,000 or something like that. And so they didn't lose as much money as the institutional. But the institutional, I guarantee you, if you invested in Amazon in 1999, 2000, over 5 years, you quadrupled your money probably. And so the portfolio effect would have taken care of the investor, right? So the scale of e-commerce investing was probably, my guess is, over $10 billion was invested at the time in e-commerce. So we were 8-9% of that total basket.
So Peter, a question.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, I think it does, right?
Yeah, just one more.
Here's a follow-on question.
So for example, if now you're making lots of money, so is there anything that you have to give that back, or it's just gone, or you feel in your conscience, legally you're not bound to pay back, right? Understand?
Yeah, the company filed for Chapter 11, which in the U.S. means bankruptcy. And so once you do that, then the shareholders essentially take a write-off. And now, on a moral and ethical basis, you know, it's a good question. I think it's very difficult, even for me, I'm doing well, to conceptualize paying back $800 million. I'm not Larry Page or, you know, Jeff Bezos. They have that kind of money. Not that they can pay that kind of money back. But nobody does, and I'll believe they don't. The reason is that the entrepreneurial process, at least in the U.S., and this is something that you guys will those who come to the U.S. versus those who stay here in India, you will find out, and Raj will tell you this, it's very Darwinistic. It's sort of like reviving the dead, you know, in an evolutionary process. You know, the system in Silicon Valley is, okay, got it, it failed, what's next? And the very same entrepreneurs, including myself, who might have lost a lot of money for investors in venture one, will go on to become some of the greatest entrepreneurs in venture two, right? So that allows for very sort of, very cathartic, because you actually are much more focused on creating the next big thing so that the investors can invest in that and hopefully make their money on that thing, versus trying to literally beat pay. Because the thesis is your entrepreneurial talent and genius is worth a lot more than your money, at least here in the US, right? And that's why Silicon Valley is such an engine of innovation, because if everybody spent all their time trying to pay money back that was lost, you know that 75% of all startups fail, they never return their money. So imagine if the creative energies of all these entrepreneurs who failed was spent trying to somehow pay that money back. You would have zero innovation. You would have everybody just sitting around trying to figure out how to pay money back, as opposed to taking their brains and saying, how do I make the next big thing happen? And, you know, that's the cultural way it works here.
Great. Did the failure of Webvan have any impact on the founders and senior employees of Webvan?
Yeah, I mean, you know, like I kind of relates to the previous question. I personally, for example, within 1 year of moving on to Webvan, I started my next company. And, in fact, I started my company in September of 2001. I don't know how many people remember why that's an important day or month.
Yes.
But that was the month of 9/11 attacks. So I started my company in September, and within 3 days, 9/11 happened. So, I just sort of looked at it and I said, okay, here comes the next disaster. And, because everybody thought the world was coming to an end. There's no more stock market, there's no more anything. But my view was, hey, when you're an entrepreneur, you take a risk and you just get ready to buckle your seatbelt and it'll be bumpy along the way, and you just sit it out. A large portion of my team, I don't know how many people know this, actually went to Amazon. And I don't know if you know, but Amazon recently just launched its home delivery service for groceries in San Francisco last month.
Exactly.
So that very team that had the experience and the knowledge, just went over to the other guys and said, all right, let's do it again. This is what I was saying earlier. I'm sure the same guy who lost money on Webvan put money terms of Amazon adding another 10 billion of revenue to the revenue stream through adding grocery delivery. The main founder, his name was Louis Borders. I don't know how many people might have heard of Borders Books and Music in the U.S.
Yes. It was a competitor
It's a very
to
large.
Barnes and Noble.
Yeah, it's like Barnes and Noble.
Yeah.
He was the founder of Borders Books and Music. And he had only seen success. This staff had done very well. He was crushed. He was absolutely devastated by the failure. And there were others who, one of the executives, the professional executives, the CFO from GE, who is a good friend of mine, is now the CFO at eBay.
Wow.
And since eBay in the last 10 years has done tremendously well. So he moved on to, from GE to Webvan to eBay. The chief operating officer, who was from Fedex, went back to Europe. So people move on. They either find corporate jobs, or they, like me, I'm just more fundamentally an entrepreneur. I started my next company, and my next company, very interestingly and coincidentally, Steve Blank was an investor in that. We had a technology which we were not very sure what the particular application would be. And classic sort of model of, I guess Steve Blank calls it customer development. Is that his word?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, customer development model.
So I talked to so many different companies, and the conversation that really made the company was called Business Signatures. We were talking to Citibank, and I was talking to the chief architect of online banking at Citibank in 2005. 4 years after we started my company in 2001. And we still didn't have a very clear model of what would be the scalable business model. And it was a company that looked at online activity and could analyze online activity in real time. And we were trying to figure out, is this good for marketeers? Is this good for technical operations people to manage their online websites? The conversation with the chief architect of Citibank online banking, he heard the pitch, and he said, "I have no use for this." And I thought, wow, what a disastrous meeting. The guy hears the whole story about this amazing technology and tells me after 1 hour this whole thing is useless after 4 years of building this. But then he says, except if you can solve the problem of detecting online banking fraudulent activity. Can you figure out if when people come to Citibank online, are they people who are doing normal things, or are they somehow trying to steal money? And that was the pivotal conversation that in this case made our company. Because we went back and we said, that would be trivial for us to do. But it was not a realization we had come to alone. It was a realization that it took the head of Citibank's online banking group to actually point out to us. And the very end, so we sort of pivoted the company, said that's the problem that we're going to focus on. Our customers will be large banks, Citibank, JP Morgan Chase, US Bank, all these guys, and they're all online banking is taking off. We're going to find